Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. That's Paul Gian, I'm Marshall Cycliff. Thanks so much for coming along down the stretch. This is where things get real good. I was just in the feature match area for those last couple of rounds on the iPad, doing the hands and such, and it's so different the further you go into the day as top 8 gets closer and closer, and you see somebody's dreams fall away and somebody's dreams get made right in front of you. And we're going to be doing that over the course of the next 2 rounds. Down to the feature match area right now for round 15, we've got Tay Jun Hao still right in the mix at 12-2 for Team Grey Ogre Games. Sitting across from him, Teruya Kakumae from Japan. That's Team Musashi. Different record. 11-3, so
paired
a lot
down.
to ride on it. Yeah, paired down for him. So let's head on down to the feature match area. It's time for round 15 here from Atlanta. Hello and welcome back to coverage here at Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. I'm Marshall Cycliff. I'm in the booth with Paul Gian, and we're right down the stretch here on day number 2. Just 2 more rounds to go until we call it a day and cut to our top 8. In round number 15, we have Tay Jun Hao from Singapore. He's playing for Team Grey Ogre Games. He's playing red-white aggro, and he has had a fantastic run. He's 12-2, effectively playing for top 8 here. Now, his opponent on the other side of the table is in a different situation. That's Teruya Kakumae from Japan. He plays for Team Musashi, best team from Japan. And he's on Celestia tokens here. But here's the key, Paul. He's at 11-3, so a lot more on the line for him. A loss would eliminate him or at least put him on the rocks for top 8.
Yeah, Tay Jun Hao can still potentially pick up a loss and still win his last round in top 8, whereas Teruya, if he loses, he is effectively eliminated from top 8. But this might be a good matchup for him. This is actually a deck we haven't seen in a bit. Selesnya tokens, and what it's looking to do is play out a bunch of creatures and then win in the late game by convoking out giant spells like Venerated Loxodon and March of the Multitudes.
I got to say, I would not want to be in Tay Jun Hao's seat. I have seen this Celestia Tokens deck do its thing. It goes wide. It has lifelink. It has ways to pump its creatures to come back. And it can just be a nightmare to try to attack through all those small creatures on the ground.
Oh.
So the red-white aggro deck here for Tay Jun Hao needs to have a fantastic start to get the job done. It looks like he's actually done so.
Yeah, well, not only that, I think Teruya also missed his 3rd land drop.
Ooh.
So that is huge, especially given that Tay Jun Hao has gone the classic 1-2-3 curve. And if you look at his hand, he's also got Conclave Tribunal on top of that as well.
Oh, another miss here. A Conclave Tribunal to add to
This
the
one's
other
gonna be
Conclave
quick.
Tribunals, and game 1 could be over in a flash. The one thing that this white-based aggro deck does is it is not forgiving.
Right. If you hiccup in any way, shape, or form, you're just going to straight up lose.
Yeah. Kakumae is going to attack for 3. I guess he's going to go down swinging here. But as it stands, this looks terrible for him. Uh-oh, untapped Sacred Foundry.
That's never good. Oh, wow.
Oh, a second Banalish Marshal. But wait, there's more.
Oh, my goodness. Legion's landing.
Landing too.
He's going to be able to flip it. And he's got a Dauntless Bodyguard in his hand, too. So he's just going to be able to unload his entire hand. I think even if Kakumae had a good hand, he would have lost to this start.
Yeah, I think you're right.
This is
So
brutal.
that's 5, 9, 10, 11. That's 13. That's exactly lethal.
Oh, my goodness.
My goodness sakes. Boy, for those of you just joining us, hope you didn't walk away from your computer for a minute, because this game is over. That was Tay Jun Hao capitalizing on a mana stumble from Kakumae. I mean, it was just, I miss a land drop game.
Right. Yeah. The thing with this tokens deck is you need to continue to pump out creatures every single turn to kind of get to your late game. And if you stumble, I mean, it's yeah, especially against a deck like this White Weenie deck, it's going to be over very, very quickly.
By the way, was that a turn 4 kill?
Yes. Turn 4 kill. History Banale, you can't kill them until turn 5. Yeah, that was a turn 4 kill. I mean, he went 1, 2. No, it was a turn 5 kill.
Turn
right?
5 kill.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I believe. I don't know.
Rate.
It was basically a turn 3 kill because Kakumae missed his land drop.
That's true. All right. Well, game number 1 goes to Tay Jun Hao. We are going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll hope you'll be here with us as well. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll have more action from the feature match here in Atlanta. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the feature match area here in Atlanta, Georgia. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. And boy, if you blinked, you missed game number one. Confirmed turn 4 kill here in standard from Tay Jun Hao. My goodness sakes. We're going to take a check-in here on Yuya Watanabe versus Andrew Ellenbogen. Now, this is It Drakes versus Red White Aggro, respectively. And these players are both 11-3, Paul. So everything on the line for them.
Yeah, absolutely. They cannot afford to take a loss here. And as you can see, Yuya Watanabe already up a game here. Danto Vanguard.
Yeah, hey,
right. That's the ideal.
Too.
The ideal start.
We have figured out how to win on turn 4 with this deck. Although it does require your opponent doing effectively nothing, never blocking or relevant spell.
Yeah, Magic's a lot easier when your opponents don't do anything.
It is. It is. Okay, here's a shock now from Watanabe. So he's going to stem the bleeding at least a little bit. But Adanto Vanguard showing its colors here, really strong, surviving through a lot of the different types of removal that they have.
No land here from Ellenbogen. Can only follow that up with a Sky Marcher Aspirant, which gets lava coiled. But you know, that Adanto Vanguard, we've seen this thing go to distance before. Extremely difficult to deal with, as you can pay 4 life to get indestructible. And Andrew did find that third land for History of Benalia.
Your real tokens? Okay. Sure.
Passes the turn back to Watanabe. So this could be a big turn for Yuya. He's got the Goblin Electromancer at the ready. That's a type of card that can allow him to cast 2 or 3 spells in one turn and craft some type of a game plan. We are post-board, and I see Entrancing Melody in the hand for Yuya.
Yeah,
the tempting target there with the Vanguard.
Yeah, Electromancer really, really shines in this matchup, as the white aggressive decks just don't have good cheap spot removal for the card. So Entrancing Melody, I I mean, he can either choose to just pay 2 blue mana to steal the token that's on the battlefield, but the Adanto Vanguard is quite problematic. I know the Drake deck does have access to many large 4 toughness flyers, which will help just be able to brick wall the Adanto Vanguard, but he might be interested in just taking that Adanto Vanguard. But gonna use Chart a Course here to get more information. If he does play an island, he can Entrancing Melody and steal that Adanto Vanguard, as he does get the cost reduction benefit of the Goblin Electromancer on the battlefield.
Yeah, he used one of his 2 blue sources here to cast the Charter Course, so it's going to have to be that Steam Vents out of his hand, unless he has an island that I can't see.
Yeah.
Let's just take a quick... Oh, let's not take a look. How about I just look?
He does also have an Enigma Drake that he can just play out. It does leave him a little bit vulnerable to something like a Conclave Tribunal, if Ellenbogen does happen to have that. Ooh, and yeah, I think we're seeing the melody here.
Yeah, so untap Steam Vents and steal your Adanto Vanguard. Look, it was so scary on the other side of the battlefield.
Wait, it's converting. Oh, Cosmo. Yeah.
Would look really nice over here.
Yeah, the Ellenbogen also putting it together. He's like, wait a second, you paid 3 mana. Oh, Electromancer, right.
Right.
Wow, this is
And
aggressive.
Watanabe's going to attack with it.
That's really interesting because now Ellenbogen just has the option, and I think he's just... I mean, it was really up to him, but that's weird because Yuya could also have just chosen to leave it back to block if he wanted to.
Strange sequence here, but this is one of the more powerful things that this deck can do. History of Benalia, and start stacking them up.
Yeah, and next turn, those one of the histories will go off, and Andrew will be able to attack for 8 with those Knight tokens. And that means that even if Yuya plays that Enigma Drake, either he has the option of taking a bunch of damage, or he's going to have to trade off that Enigma Drake with one of those Knights. Now, another thing Yuya can do is just chump block with Adanto Vanguard, as I don't think he's really interested in paying 4 life to keep his creature indestructible.
Yeah, spotting Andrew a couple of attacks with those Knights by doing so.
I think Yuya is really hurting, actually, from losing that Goblin Electromancer. He has quite a few spells that he'd be interested in casting this turn. You know, he could have played Lava Coil. He could have played Lava Coil plus Enigma Drake this turn. So it's a little bit rough. And of course, anytime somebody draws multiple History of Benalias, life is just never easy. Ooh. So you're going to get frisky again with this Adanto Vanguard. Wow.
I'll take it. 17.
Yu's just kind of woke up a little aggro today.
Yeah, he just wants to give some beatdowns, I guess. I mean,
I got a creature I'm going to attack with.
Maybe his plan is to try to get Andrew low enough and just win the game with an Enigma Drake. I mean, we're looking at 5 spells in the graveyard, so he's still pretty far away.
I will, I guess.
Andrew wants to stack it so he makes a Knight, and then all the Knights get pumped. Not really going to matter.
Sure, I mean, Summoning Sickness is still a thing, I guess.
Unless he can give the new Knight haste somehow.
I mean, there is Heroic Reinforcements in the format, though I don't think that Andrew's running it, is he?
Well, also, he doesn't have a red source in here.
Right, there's numerous...
No, he has red mana in his deck, but he's using it for sideboard options.
Yeah, we've seen that pretty commonly. Mono-white main.
Right.
And basically a couple of choice sideboard cards that happen to be in red.
You also get the additional value of people thinking you have Heroic Reinforcements in your deck because they see cards like Sacred Foundry, and people might play very differently because of that.
It is one of the scariest cards in the format for sure. So Andrew's attacking with the 2 Knights. It's a lot of damage.
Yep.
It's 8.
Yuya going for the trade.
Go ahead and trade off the Enigma Drake with one of the Knight tokens. Not where you want to be, but he's doing what he's got to do. Drops down to 6 life. And is there anything for Ellenbogen to play now?
Saw Dauntless Bodyguard.
So, yeah, it's definitely something.
Is that another history?
Wow.
Wow.
Man.
All of the knights.
Oh,
Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce, though, to counter it. Boy, that little interaction there might be what Yuya needs to scrap his way back in this game. It still seems like it's going to be an uphill climb for him.
Look at this, though. He's got double lava coil. He can just kill both of these knights.
And just blank the third history? Wow. Yuya Watanabe looking to the future. And once again, he's going to attack.
Yeah, and Andrew's like, what's going on here? Why do you keep attacking
Stop
me with this thing?
attacking me, Yuya. He just keeps taking it.
Yep.
And then there's double lava coil.
Yeah, and that negates the pump effect of this history of Benalia. So Yuya might be on the comeback trail here. He's got that Adanto Vanguard that's been now putting pressure on Andrew. Big time spell pierce there.
Oof. Triple history, but not good enough, at least thus far for Andrew Ellenbogen. Again, just a quick reminder, these players are sitting at 11-3.
Yeah, I don't think Andrew expected that spell pierce because he did have the option of just deploying creatures over there instead, but instead chose to go with the history of Benalia because the other one was he had another one in play that was going to trigger.
Yeah, and the way looked clear, right? He didn't have the Goblin Electromancer anymore, just the 1 mana up. What's the worst thing that could happen? And, well, he found out.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and there's a Crackling Drake. I just mentioned he needs a Drake. Well, he has one. Yuya looks like he's starting to take control of this game.
Yeah, Andrew Ellenbogen does need a way to deal with the Drake. I think he might have a Conclave Tribunal in hand, and if he does, he's, of course, going to fire it off on the Crackling
Is he
Drake.
going to play around Spell Pierce? He could. It cost him dearly.
He's only got 1 card. It's really hard to play around the second Spell Pierce, but if he's not looking to attack...
Good for you, Andrew. Don't play around it. Just run it out
you just
there.
attack with both.
Yeah, this is a strong play here from Andrew Ellenbogen.
Yuya's not going to pay the 4 life, otherwise he's just going to be dead.
Right, so instead he's going to take a couple of damage, drop down to 4, and trade off. Pass the turn. This is a big draw step here for Yuya. He really needs to find something. Okay, well, he's going to start things off with Opt.
Yeah, he wants a Melody. Any creature would be good.
Yep. There it is. Enigma Drake off the top of the library for Watanabe.
Wow.
He's got 9 instants and sorceries right now. You see that die indicating that. 9 power, but just as critical. It's got toughness, and it can actually block.
But Andrew has the answer. I believe he has a Baffling End in his hand.
You are...
Oh, no. Oh, that looked like a Baffling End. I'm sorry. But no, it is
another tribunal. So he's set up lethal for next turn, but he's not attacking for any right now. So once again, Yuya Watanabe...
Another Drake
gotta
would be good.
find something.
He needs a Drake.
He found Goblin Electromancer. That actually does keep him alive.
Yes.
But kind of barely.
Yeah, that allows him to trade with the Bodyguard.
Yep.
And,
and he's got Chart of Course. And he found a Phoenix.
oh, he's putting it in his yard, and I think he's got a cantrip here. And if he can find another 1 mana spell, he can put that Arclight Phoenix back onto the battlefield.
Yeah, or technically 2 mana because of the Electromancer.
Right. Oh, right.
I mean, he can, chain together basically any 2 of his cantrips.
There's
and
the
it's an opt.
we saw this
This
earlier.
is exactly the John Finkel play from before. Can Yuya Watanabe find it? Down to the bottom, the full sweat, never easy. And it was another Electromancer, I think.
Oh, there was a radical idea.
Oh, he had radical idea the whole time.
Okay, so...
doing it, as they say in the business. And now he stabilized his board.
yeah, and I don't think he's going to attack here, right?
Or... Yuya Watanabe putting on a show for us.
Wow. Didn't he just have, no cards, basically?
Thought he was
What happened?
almost just about out of cards, but he said, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah.
Like,
This deck just
on,
has the ability to just amass an army out of nowhere. Just by chaining together a bunch of spells, getting those Phoenixes into the graveyard.
is Yuya deep in the tank on whether to send in here?
Yeah, I think he's considering attacking with this Arclight Phoenix because he is not dead on board. He can put the Goblin Electromancer in front of Dauntless Bodyguard and go down to 1, but it looks like he'll play it a little more conservatively because even if he blocks the Adanto Vanguard, Andrew Ellenbogen does these... Oh, wow.
Man, another Tribunal. It's still not lethal, though. So he can trade off for the bodyguard and then hope to rip a 4 toughness Drake.
Yeah, a Drake would do it here.
Wow, these top decks are insane.
Entrancing Melody, also an option. Wants it down to one.
Ideally a cantrip.
Nope.
No, it's 2 mountains, and that's going to do it for game number 2. Andrew Ellenbogen scrapping it out and getting the job done. They're going to go to game number 3. That means we're going to head back to our main table. They've been sitting for longer than they played their first game.
Well, yeah, game 1 took about 30 seconds.
It did,
45
yeah.
seconds.
Tay Jun Hao just brought the wrecking ball to Teruya Kakumae. That was a turn 4 kill. Let's see if Kakumae can come up with something a little better here this time. Make sure he gets his land
is he
drops.
going to do it?
Oh,
Is he going to
please
look at?
do
Oh,
it.
I
Just
wanted to
please
see
do
this.
it.
He had
Just
2
do
of
it.
these in his sideboard.
Harpoon it. No!
Oh, he's waiting.
So close. So
All
close.
right.
So he has Harpooner that he can bring it out of the board, and Paul and I have a dream of seeing it snipe one of these
Well,
hawks.
I've done this in Limited many times.
Same. But still, a really good start for him. If you like tokens, this Samara is going to just start making a
Right.
bunch of lifelinkers, either through Convoke or through attacking.
Yeah, a much better start out of Kakumae here with the turn 2 Amara, followed by, Flower Flourish to get a land if he needs, and then the Crawl Harpooner to deal with this Healer's Hawk.
Bodyguard protects Hawk. Bodyguard protects Bodyguard. But who protects the Bodyguard?
Ooh, the next one.
Yeah, I guess he may have to have another one. Still, he has 5 power on the battlefield now. Oh, he drew the Harpooner, I think.
No, he had it on turn 2.
Oh, okay.
He had it on turn 2.
Do
but
it.
he wanted the Amara on the battlefield first to try to, get that one going and start making tokens as quickly as possible.
You can never get that 1 point of damage back. Okay, he's going to go for Flower here. He can get a Forest or a Plains with that. It's one of the important cards in the deck in that it's a very low cost to put in the deck.
Right.
It's basically a tap dual land.
And in the late game, it can do a lot of work because you are able to put a ton of tokens onto the battlefield.
That's right. It can win you the game, or if you even have just a few lifelinkers, it can get you back in a game if you're in a matchup where you're trying to race.
Right. We're trying to figure out what's protecting what, but Kakumae is definitely going to be playing a Crawl Harpooner here to get the Hawk.
Fight.
I think Tay just is going to let that happen because the Harpooner also has reach. So it's going to be a while before this Healer's Hawk actually does anything. And he wants to have those 2 power creatures in play to be able to trade off with the Amara and possibly even the Crawl Harpooner.
We did it. Harpooned us a Healer's Hawk.
Yeah, Kakumae had a lot of good sideboard options here. He had not only 2 copies of Crawl Harpooner, but he also has Baffling End and 3 copies of Night of Autumn, which should be very, very good in this matchup. It gets Tribunal, it allows you to gain life. Sometimes it's just the biggest creature on the battlefield, and it also gets History of Benalia.
So he's going to attack with Amara. That creates a 1/1 lifelink soldier. But Tay Jun Hao says, sure, I don't want to have that thing just sitting around making more and more and more of them because those bodyguards are getting worse and worse for every 1/1 that gets on the battlefield anyway. Legion's landing.
And I'm sure Kakumae's happy with that exchange too, right?
Definitely.
He played a creature, removed the creature, and still has a 1/1 lifelinker whose body is actually still very relevant on this board.
Yeah, also he does run 3 copies of Amara in the deck, so that makes those live as top decks as well.
Right.
So value.
Kakumae with, all right, getting aggressive here. Interesting. So Tay Jun Hao is looking at this. He's like, wait, why did you attack with the Harpooner? I can just put my bodyguard in front of it. Kakumae must be happy with that exchange. That will remove a 2-power creature on the battlefield, which will increase the chances that he'll be able to connect with that Amara Soul of the Accord that's in his hand. And Tay Jun Hao chooses to take all of it. Yeah, and one of the heaviest hitters in this matchup, really will basically seal the deal is March of the Multitudes. Now that he's got, a pretty good set of creatures on the battlefield, if he at any point he finds March of the Multitudes, he's going to be able to amass an army of lifelink tokens, which will be very, very difficult to race.
I mean, just snapshot this board right now.
Right.
Tay Jun Hao's like, how am I even getting through this nonsense?
Yeah, yeah. One of the really important creatures for Tay Jun Hao is Benalish Marshal, as it does allow him to pump all of his 1 toughness creatures and attack through all the 1/1s that the Selesnya Tokens deck is capable of making. But Teruya also has his own Anthem effect. Doesn't have Benalish Marshal, but he does have Tristani Discordant, which puts an army out there on the battlefield and pumps everything.
Now, we were taking a look at the sideboard during the commercial break, Paul, you and I, and we noticed a few cards from Tay, including one Settle the Wreckage. He's got that in his hand.
Interesting.
So
that is...
I wonder if he can try to maneuver this to some mega Settle the Wreckage or something. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose. I mean, there is that get you effect. It's a little bit awkward to board in a removal spell like that against a deck that has 4 copies of an X spell that makes a bunch of 1/1s.
And a lot of basics.
So when you get your token settled, you get a bunch of lands, you thin out your deck, and then you also have March of the Multitudes. But, you know, he might think, well, this is also just, you know, having a 1-of to get people, you know, the surprise factor might be worth it. Ooh, Legion's Landing, very big.
Yeah, pre-combat as it usually comes down so that he can transform it. And with just one 1/1 lifelinker, we might see Kakumae just get aggressive here and send them all in.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets settled, like, it's not even that bad. He's going to then have like 12 lands on the battlefield, which means any threat that he draws, he's going to be able to play and also make 1/1 tokens every turn with the flipped Legion's Landing.
Tay Jun Hao looks like he wants to block one of the lifelinking soldiers, but he's going to remain patient here because Kakumae did not attack with the Harpooner at all. Land go. Down to 13 for Tay Jun Hao.
And we're at the point where Kakumae not only has a better board, but his deck also just has a much more potent late game, right? We talked about Flower Flourish. What if he draws Flower Flourish? That's basically a mini overrun effect that he can use to just attack with all those creatures for lethal. So this is a very, very powerful card, a powerful option that the Selesnya decks have. They have the additional ability to smooth out their draws with a card like this, which is an extremely low cost to put into your green-white decks.
Low cost, high upside. That's how I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
That is how I take my value.
Separating out the various lifelink tokens, which all effectively do the same thing. I don't think there are any tribal rewards in this Selesnya tokens deck.
Okay, here's 5 creatures, and now it's time for Settle the Wreckage. And look at this. Teruya Kakumae is like, sweet. You get to go get 5
I'd be
lands.
thrilled if this happened. I mean, Tay Jun Hao has to do what he has to do, but you know, I imagine that Settle the Wreckage is also an option that he brought in because he was on the draw. And I don't expect him to have something like that on the play.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like he'd prefer to have a fog effect there or something, just for, you know, flourish, kill you, and he can say, I'm not dead, actually. Yeah. But long-term planning-wise, this Settle the Wreckage may backfire.
Look at all those lands.
Look at all those lands he just got.
Oh, man.
Now, does he have a copy? He's got Knight of Autumn in his hand? Okay. Well. Oh, and he also has History of Benalia.
Right.
Boy, he's going to be able to reload quite quickly.
I wonder if he's going to go aggressive here. Is he just going to play out a large Knight of Autumn, or is he just going to hold it in his hand in case Tay Jun Hao plays something like for example, how can Kakumae lose here? Experimental Frenzy? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's one of the cards he could be concerned about.
Where he does want to keep applying pressure.
Right. And if that's the type of card that you're concerned with, maybe you hold it. But nope, Kakumae wants to close the door here and just go with the beatdown plan.
That's exactly what he's going to do. He plays Knight of Autumn, chooses the +1/+1 counters mode on that, and passes a turn back.
By the way, Knight of Autumn, not a big surprise, but it's a knight. You get that little, get the pump effect from that History of Benalia.
Tick tock. Tay Jun Hao's down to 13 life. Adanto the First Fort also going for Teruya Kakumae, so he can continue to make tokens, and of course he has a ton of extra mana to do so.
I just kind of want to see a March of the Multitudes. I know it's a little bit overkill, but you know, having opponents play X-Spells after Settle the Wreckage.
Jun Hao with a quick and easy win in game number 1, but it has been an uphill climb from almost the get-go.
Did he draw Frenzy?
He just played an untapped.
This must be Experimental Frenzy. Oh, no, it's not.
Okay, well, it must be both of those,
Oh,
right?
it is Experimental. It has to be,
it's
right?
Conclave Tribunal plus that. Otherwise, why the untapped land?
Right.
There it is, Experimental Frenzy.
This is the way Tay Jun Hao can claw back into this game. Teruya Kakumae did play out that Knight of Autumn, trying to close out the game, and then Tay Jun drew the perfect card.
Yes, talk about the perfect card. He just ripped Conclave Tribunal.
Oh, okay.
That's the easy mode, Kakumae. Come on, man.
Kind of wanted to see what that Frenzy was going to offer.
Oh, and look at this. He's going to get a 2-for-1 city here. He's going to get a 2-1 out of the deal that's going to enter the battlefield and then still destroy the Frenzy. And I see lands getting picked up by Tay Jun Hao. That's game number 2 going to Kakumae, and we're going to get a game 3. Man, it's just never easy, right? Like, Tay Jun Hao sits down. He thinks, okay, let's just get this done. Sits down. He's 12-2. He's ready to go. He gets basically a free win in game 1. He's like, all right, we're doing it. Top 8, here I come. And now it's like game 3. And he's got to kind of, sit down and shake it off.
Ultimately, I think it's a little bit of a poor matchup. And also, we've seen kind of the power of Experimental Frenzy in matchups where people can't interact with it. But here, you're now playing against the Selesnya deck. It's got all sorts of answers. It's got Knight of Autumn. It's got Conclave Tribunal. So it's really, really difficult to just try to rely on something like Experimental Frenzy to close out games.
Okay, 2 players again with not the same records. Jeremy Dazani and Makihito Mahara are battling out at the table you see on the right-hand side of your screen. Let's check in on them. Oh, game 3. There's a judge in there some way. But at any rate, Jeremy Dazani looks like he is in firm control here. Nary a permanent on the side of the battlefield for Mahara outside of lands, and 3 creatures attacking for Dazani. It looks like there may be a discussion about whether he can or cannot transform his Legion's landing. Perhaps he forgot.
But he let me attack. I ask it. I say attack Shimas. You say okay. I attack. Then I flip and you say wait. So wait is for trigger.
Yeah, so they're sorting out exactly when the attacks were declared with regards to the
because
landing
Makihito Mihara has a Vraska's Contempt in hand. I don't know if Mihara was aware that Legion's Landing was in play.
Oh. Maybe would have preferred.
Oh, it would have been much better
to
had he removed
do this pre-combat.
Had he removed either the Adanto Vanguard. You can't mentor onto the Vanguard though, right? Isn't it a 3-1 when it's attacking?
Yes.
You cannot stack the triggers. Adanto Vanguard, when it attacks, it's just the 3-1. So I don't think you can put a counter on Adanto Vanguard.
As long as Adanto Vanguard is attacking, it gets +2,
so
+0.
We should try to
let them know.
Yeah.
Right, so there's some type of effects that say when it attacks,
right,
and then there may be a triggered ability that would then have to resolve before it gets it. But Adanto Vanguard is a little bit slicker of a design, where it's turned sideways once it's declared an attacker. Whoop,
yeah, and the thing is, we've built, even when in play design we were testing various Boros decks, this has come up where we were like, man, Adanto Vanguard, it's like one of the best aggressive creatures, but doesn't really work especially well with Mentor. But because it's so good, we're still going to put it into our decks.
Okay. Yeah, I think I might be glad it doesn't work that well with Mentor.
It might be a little too strong, admittedly. And keep in mind, Jeremy, he's been having a fantastic run in this tournament, but he picked up this deck at the very last possible moment. So he might not actually be aware of all the minor interactions with Mentor in this deck.
Jade Light Ranger now for Mahara. But I don't see the Wild Growth Walker, which tends to be one of his best ways to combat a deck like this. It allows him to gain life and put out a big blocker.
Yeah, I am still wondering about that Legion's Landing. I wonder if Mihara, again, we're just doing a live look-in, but it feels like he really wanted to fire off that removal spell prior to the 3 creatures attacking so that the Legion's Landing wouldn't flip. So I think that might have been a misstep, but we definitely could be missing something here.
Yeah, we do come in on the live look, and it's kind of right in the middle of play. We don't ask our players to hold for those type of situations, so we may never know.
We may not.
In the meantime, Dizani, he's playing one way. Attack, 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 attack. Everything in the red zone. Math is for blockers. You figure it out, Mahara. Here's 2 blockers.
Yep. And so
Taking 5 and dropping down to 7, though. Life total plummeting.
but he now has gotten the Boros Challenger off the battlefield. Mahara needs something like, the ideal card would be like Golden Demise, as it would be able to cleanly sweep everything on the battlefield. I'm not sure if he has that. And Ravenous Chupacabra has been unlocked as Tocatli Honor Guard is no longer on the battlefield. Tocatli Honor Guard was a very
really
nice techie card.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that's what he had to fire off his removal spell on. Because he was sitting there holding Jade Light Ranger and Ravenous Chupacabra and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, he needed something.
Yeah, it completely shuts down Chupacabra and all of the Explore creatures in the black-green deck.
But this was a good turn for Mahara as far as coming back goes. He stabilized his board at least somewhat with 2 creatures on the ground, and he set up the Wild Growth Walker, so if he does have more Explore in his hand, he can actually recoup some of that life and get that big blocker going.
Well, yeah, and keep in mind, though, that he's got that Memorial onto the battlefield. If he does have a land, he can Memorial back the Jade Light Ranger, play the Jade Light Ranger, get that double Explore, and gain 6 life, which will be huge in terms of just trying to come back in this game.
Yeah, I like that line a lot. Mahara on a tough road to get here, 11-3. He had to play John Finkel earlier today.
Yep. That was a really nice one to watch.
Super exciting.
Jeremy's hand looks pretty nice. I think I saw Conclave Tribunal in there as well, so might be interested in getting that Wild Growth Walker out of the way, because I feel like one of the ways you lose is if Mahara somehow untaps and plays a couple of Explorer creatures and kind of claws back in with his life total.
Tell you what, if I'm Mahara, I'm pretty excited that Jeremy Dizani has paused this long.
Right.
To think he didn't do anything super quick. Remember, Mahara's tapped out, so he's just like, hey.
Oh, and there's a Legion's Landing, which is he ascended now?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, he is.
He's got 4. Yep, he's ascended now, so the Sky Marcher Aspirant now has flying. And he can also still use the token from the Legion's Landing and tap 3 of his mana to use Conclave Tribunal on the Wild Growth Walker and then get in for a big attack here. He can attack with both the Adanto Vanguard and the Sky Marcher Aspirant because he's ascended.
This feels like Jeremy Dizani moving just a step or 2 away from victory here.
Yeah.
That was a big turn for him. Conclave Tribunal to take away the really powerful Wild Growth Walker that we just mentioned, and maybe take away the outs that Makihito Mahara had. No, I was wrong. He has Finality to wipe the board. Boom. Land Finality, and that means that Chapter 3 does nothing. Although Jeremy had the plan, though. He said, you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready for that. I've got
He needs
History
another Finality.
Kind of does, doesn't he?
It's a tight one. Oh, I see a split card in Mihara's hand.
Well, he's facing lethal, so he must do something.
Right.
And it looks like it's going to be Vivian Reed.
Well, so... Okay.
And
so
he can get back the Wild Growth Walker.
So, he can kill the Tribunal, get back the Walker, which does give him a blocker. Now he's 2 blockers.
Okay, yeah, he has Druid of the Cowl as well. So once again, Mahara is going to fend off certain death. He's hanging on by a thread. He needed that Finality last turn, and now he needs to go spell, which is what he did.
And if he can manage to... Again, not 100% sure on the card in his hand. I thought it was a fine Finality. But now, I mean, he might be on the verge of stabilizing. He's got that Wild Growth Walker. He's got that Vivian in play. So if he can find something like Jade Light Ranger, again, keep in mind, he has that Memorial to Folly still on the battlefield. He can get back a Jade Light Ranger and gain 6 life with the double Explore trigger.
Boy, if his last card is Finality, he is setting this up beautifully. He can block a Knight. He can chump block the Vanguard. Put the counters on the Wild Growth Walker, and once again, blank History of Benalia's 3rd chapter completely.
Yeah. What a big turnaround. Fine Finality.
If that's
Huge
what he
swing.
has. Now, if it's not, well, he's got a lot of work to do.
He's
but
still got that backup plan that I talked
does.
about.
The Jade Light Ranger plan still works. And can you imagine if he gets to do this and still keep Vivian Reed as well? He'd get to go nuts. All right, here it is. He's untapping. No, he's not. Okay, now he is.
There you go. What is that card?
Let's see what he's got.
It's a split card.
It has to be Fine Finality. First, he's going to plus. Jeremy Dezani, all he can do is look on. He's got nothing going. Mahara finds a forest. Dezani says, okay, that's not going to be bad. But wait for it.
Mapping it. I mean,
it,
just
man.
cast it. Like, what?
Forest.
I mean, the stakes are high. Mihara just wants to make sure he doesn't mess any of this up. And maybe it's not. Maybe. Like, nobody plays Status Statue, right?
No, they sure don't. But what they do play
Okay, I was like, what was he waiting for?
is Finality, and he finally runs it out there. Jeremy Dezani shoulder slump a little bit because this was a massive play for Makohito Mahara.
Wow, double
Unbelievable.
Finality.
Yeah, huge play for him. Okay, well,
You can only sandbag cards for so long.
yeah, I'm gonna assume that Mihara is gonna be able to clean up the mess here, and I will keep you updated on that. But we got to get back to our main table where we have Tay Jun Hao playing against Teruya Kakumae, and they are ready and waiting.
Yeah, given that he does still have that option of getting back the J-Light Ranger and kind of gain 6 life, along with that Vivian Reed in play, it seems extremely unlikely. You can only sandbag so many creatures. If you get Wrath twice often when you're playing that aggressive deck, I mean, that's pretty much just the match. Oh, and Tay Jun Hao with actually getting punished here with Clifftop Retreats as his initial start. He needs to get off to a quick start because I feel like the Silesia Token's late game is superior, and he did not have a 1 or 2 drop. And this is the ideal start here from Kakumae. He's only got the 3 copies of Allegiance Landing as his 1 mana option. So going 1 mana into Mara, this is exactly the type of start that he wants. I wonder if Kakumae is going to look to do something similar that he did in the previous game, which is offer the trade with Amara and make a token.
He seemed pretty happy with that transaction in the last game. So Mahara, by the way, on our other table is now attacking with the Wild Growth Walker. So that's a pretty good sign. Yep. It's 9-11 for the life totals, and they're swinging back towards Makihito Mahara. That was on the table that we just had to leave. Do apologize for that, but we're kind of down the stretch on the round here, and we were holding our main table. Here's Flower now for Teruya Kakumae.
He must have another play this turn.
He does. Sapperling Migration.
Yeah, so that means next turn he's going to be able to flip that Legion's Landing. He's got 5 creatures on the battlefield. And Tay Jun Hao chose not to trade here with Amara, so Amara will be able to actually attack again next turn. Wait, is this a Tribunal too?
Pretty aggressive Tribunal.
I think he's going to use this Tribunal just to get rid of a token.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did.
And look at his hand. He's got 5 creatures on the battlefield with March of the Multitudes as well.
Vivian Reed as well. All right, and I can confirm that Mahara was able to finish off that match and win the game there. So he has defeated Jeremy Dezani 2-1 and improved to 12-3, knocking Jeremy. Now, this is interesting. He's at 11-3-1. So
he still might have a chance. We still need to figure out all the tie breaks. Historically, 12-3-1 is a record that's good enough to top 8 the Pro Tour. However, this is the largest individual Pro Tour of all time at 507 players, I believe. And given that, all the math that we've learned before might not actually be the case for this particular tournament.
Heroic reinforcements now for Tay Jun Hao says, well, maybe we do actually have a race on our hands here.
Yeah, but you're not out
you
racing
can't,
that reinforcement.
right? You're not.
There's the March of the Multitudes. I mean, Teruya can just make, let's see, so he's got 5 creatures, 2, 3, 4. He can make 6 tokens by convoking March of the Multitudes, and then, of course, by tapping Amara from the convoke ability, he'll be able to make an additional token. But it looks like he's actually going to sandbag the March and go for an even bigger number here and just attack with just enough to flip Legion's Landing.
Another update, by the way, for those of you who have been with us for a few minutes, Yuya Watanabe playing against Andrew Ellenbogen. Yuya won.
Oh, okay.
That's a big one there. That's 12-3 for Yuya Watanabe.
Wow.
He's going to be paying very close attention to the standings for that last round and
Absolutely.
might find himself in yet another top 8.
So now do you run out the Vivian? Yeah, Vivian Plus is fairly safe here, as he has Teruya Kakumae has plenty of chump blockers here. Even if Tay Jun Hao happens to have a removal spell, maybe Heroic Reinforcements might mess things up a little bit. But look, he's got the Knight of Autumn here too, just in case Tay tries to do something with Experimental Frenzy or Conclave Tribunal. Just has all the answers. I mean, it feels like the Selesnya tokens was just custom built to beat down on these white aggressive decks.
I've been seeing this in the feature match area all weekend long. Every single time this matchup comes up, it just seems like such a slog for the red-white deck. They just present so many answers, and in the meantime, there's just a million creatures there to make sure their life total stays higher, that you don't have good attacks.
Yeah, I mean, even Sapperling Migration is just a very good card against the white aggro deck.
It is.
It's just it's able to just trade with a ton of the different one-drops that the white deck can play. Right, so that
A little early to call it here, Paul, but I just feel like Kakumae is just so far ahead, especially with what we know of his hand, and then Vivian Reed's there too.
right. Again, more lands, more creatures, a planeswalker in hand, and a better late game strategy.
So Kakumae's going to trade off a couple of tokens.
Does the Knight token
for
not
a
die?
knight. It should. Didn't miss anything, did I? That was.
It was a 4th.
Oh, this was the history?
It was a 4/3.
Oh,
Did
okay.
he block with 2 tokens?
Yeah, he only
accidentally.
blocked with 2. Yeah, I think he.
Oh,
did you see
no.
that little smile there?
He's
from
like,
Kakumae?
whoops.
He's like, I guess I will gain a life.
It's one of those classic, I'm so far ahead, and sometimes you just miss a little. No,
hey.
what I'm saying is little things sometimes get missed when you feel like you
Yeah.
can't possibly lose.
That's true.
I mean, the stakes are certainly high here. But despite that slight misstep, Kakumae's still very firmly in the lead here. He's got
Okay.
that Knight of
Okay.
Autumn. He's got that Knight of Autumn, which he can use to kill the Tribunal, get back Vivian, meaning Tay Jun Hao still can't play out that Experimental Frenzy because the Vivian on board will still be able to deal with that Frenzy.
Well, now it will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, another activation off of Vivian Reed, and she's probably going to be the card that makes the difference this match.
And
as a
another
source
Knight
of
of
card
Autumn.
advantage that Tay Jun Hao just doesn't have access to. The only card in his deck is Experimental Frenzy that can get him this far ahead on cards,
Right.
and that's not going to stay around.
And the
for
only
even a turn.
answer that the white aggro decks have against Vivian Reed is Conclave Tribunal, and the Selesnya deck just has so many different ways to remove Tribunal. It's got Vivian Reed, its own Tribunals, and also Knight of Autumn. Teruya, happy with this trade again. And I was actually looking at the percentage of decks that made the conversion into day 2. Selesnya tokens actually had the highest conversion rate of all decks.
Really?
Yeah, I believe it was in 70%, 70th percentile.
I've been very impressed by this deck. Not just its ability to play a defensive game like this, but against the control decks, it can rebuild a board very quickly.
Yep.
And leverage, you know, the difference to me is Vivian Reed, right? Like, you've seen similar board states from both of these decks, but the difference is that Vivian Reed sitting around just powering out card after card and also being this catch-all for a bunch of really annoying cards in the format. All of these enchantments that are floating around, plus cards like Niv Mizzet, any of the drakes,
Yeah,
all that
the
stuff.
fact that she also deals with flyers is extremely relevant in this format.
Very much so. And then if there isn't anything on the other side, boom. Look at this. I
Yeah,
mean, he's just
You're
chaining Knights of
impulsing
Autumn
for
now.
a land or a creature every single turn.
You can't miss in these decks. And this is Knight of Autumn, I think the third one now.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Right. I wonder at this point if he's going to pass and just try to make a bunch of tokens. He's now he is ascended. He's got the single copy of Arch of Araska because this is a token deck. It's very easy to ascend. Is he going to wait on the march or fire one off this turn? Looks like we're waiting. No reason to rush. Yeah, I mean, Teruya has this all but locked up.
Boy, Team Musashi, they'll get you. They've got a lot. Remember, Yuya Watanabe also plays for Team Musashi, and he already won his match this round, so he's 12-3 and eyeballing that top 8.
Yeah, they could have 2 players in the top 8. Wow. No. Hey, oh, not only that,
Good way to start the season.
2 players in the top 8 of the biggest individual Pro Tour of all time.
Yeah. Maximum hard mode.
I wonder if Taze just goes, you know what? I know you have Vivian and Knight of Autumn. Maybe I use this frenzy to just draw a couple of cards. But okay, he's still just sitting pretty with the 1/1s.
Boy, I'll tell you what, now you feel the pure pain of playing a low-to-the-ground aggro deck here on turn 12 or whatever.
Right.
Here's my 1-drop. Go. Meanwhile, Teruya Kakumae is drawing a fresh card off the top of his library, plus most likely a creature every single turn extra.
Yeah.
And he's way ahead on board.
You know what we're going to see? We're going to see a victory via Vivian Reed emblem. We're
Are
getting
we
to that
really?
point.
Oh, there's Tristani. Oh, man.
Oh,
this one is
goodness.
just about done.
He just has all of the things. You just He's like, okay, I can do this. I can also do that. Vivian Reed emblem, by the way. If you're playing a deck with creatures, +2/+2, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. Yeah.
That's game.
That's game, folks.
That will end it.
We've seen quite a few emblem victories
We
in the
have.
past couple of rounds.
That's right. Some Vraska emblems.
Yeah,
I saw
on
one of
both
the,
sides.
I saw one of the judges go by and go, I need a Vraska emblem. Oh, whoa, something's good going on over there.
Are you talking about 6-mana Vraska?
Yeah, which one do you need?
But yeah, Vraska. It turns out Vraska emblem plus Carnage Tyrant is kind of a combo.
Very difficult to put it up.
Yeah. Ooh, so he can march here. Are we gonna? I think we're gonna see just a gigantic march, and then you can just close out the game that way.
So end step march, untap, ultimate Vivian Reed.
Or
Boy.
just attack. You don't even need to. You could probably just attack with everything because.
Oh, I would math this for blockers that attack all day.
You would try to go for over lethal here?
Absolutely.
Just why not?
I mean, a bunch of them have lifelink anyway. Like,
Yeah,
you're not losing on the crackback.
Just get your opponent to minus 100.
By the way, if that happens, if that's the line that Kakumae takes, I need somebody to screenshot it and tell me how much damage he actually attacked for.
Absolutely.
'Cause
Somebody has to
I
tell
can't
us the
figure
actual
it.
number.
I'm not doing that in the booth.
Is it squillions of damage?
It's up there. How many cards does Tay Jun? Oh, interesting. So he just played Experimental Frenzy. Because, look, the one thing that could really get in the way of this little plan that I just concocted of attacking for a trillion, and it looks like he doesn't even get a chance to do so.
No.
Tay Jun Hao picks up Vivian Reed, says, what does the emblem do again? And extends the hand. And Teruya Kakumae picks up the victory for Team Musashi.
That
Wow,
just
what a
looked
start
easy.
to their season. 2 players knocking at the door of top 8. We could see them both in the top 8. It is not impossible at all, depending on how the standings go in this last stretch. If they do need to play, well, we'll probably be watching that.
Yeah, we'll probably be doing so, but there's definitely a very good chance that some number of X3 ones will make it into the top 8.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, boy, big field here for a Pro Tour, but it is getting right down to the wire. We just finished round number 15. That means that there's 1 round to go in the Swiss before we cut to our top 8 and then get to our top 8 announcement. We're going to take a short commercial break, but when we come back, we'll be leading right in to the last round of action. Don't go anywhere.